Exactly 1 year ago today, Bay Area Congresswoman Anna Eshoo spent hours sheltered in a locked room, hiding from an angry mob January 6th. The Congresswoman joins us now to look back on the events of that day. And Congresswoman, thank you so much. Are you there? There she is.
I am.
I couldn't
Thank you,
believe it.
Catherine.
Anna, you had heard gunshots. You did not think it was safe to go into the hallways. You'd been hustled into that locked room, and yet you made time to talk to us. You must have been talking to us that day for like 40 minutes. What are some of the things, Congresswoman, that stands out most about that experience?
The shock and the horror of it. It was an event that no one, I don't think, in our country or even around the world could have ever have imagined happening. A vicious attack on our citadel of democracy, the capital of the United States. So it was, I've described it as a day from hell. But it wasn't just about us, those of us that were there. This is something that I think every American really has to take to heart, that our democracy is fragile. We almost lost it that day. Thank God we didn't. This vicious mob came to attack the very fundamentals of our Constitution, and so that was on display certainly all day. But it's up to all of us to protect and defend. I never imagined that it would be the enemy from within. It was Americans that launched this attack.
You told me that aside from personal losses, it was the saddest day of your life. Was it?
It was. I still carry what I would describe as a deep sense of grief that this happened. And I think too that, when I've taken my oath of office and we say those words to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign or domestic, I think the word domestic really did not hit home. We've always thought of it as our national security and what we need to do to secure the nation. So this is a deep wound for our country. And in the subsequent days, weeks, and months since that attack, what has, the wound hasn't healed because there are such deep divisions in our country. The flip side of that is that we do have a select committee, bipartisan, that is investigating all of this. And why do that? Because facts in a democracy matter. It matters to know, to discover, to investigate, and bring the facts forward. Who did this? Who paid for it? Who was part of the organizing? Because it was all from within.
You probably saw the opinion piece by 3 retired U.S. generals, Congresswoman, saying they were chilled to the bone by the prospect this could happen again and possibly succeed. Is that something we should be thinking more about?
Oh, very much so. And that is the work of the select committee, to do the investigation, to uncover, as I said, who collaborated, who paid, who helped to organize. How did this happen? So that we can give the best assurance to the American people in our day, in our time, that this never, ever happen again. It's never happened before in the history of our country. And I think that this day of commemoration is very important, that we reflect on not only what happened, but move forward and do the things that will assure the American people that it never happens again. It's why our democracy, I mean, it's on, uh, it's right there in front of the American people. And Catherine, our democracy doesn't only belong to elected officials; it belongs to everyone in our country, regardless of political affiliation.
The U.S. has faced obviously all kinds of threats over the years. What makes this threat of special concern?
Because it came from within. This is, one, some Americans pitted against others. And it's, as I said before, it was the unthinkable that happened. But it did. We have to face up to it. All of us need to, I think, recommit ourselves to this fragile democracy and work to make it stronger. I can't help but think of all the Americans that have given their lives to protect and defend our democracy. So, in our day, our time, we're called to do the same.
I remember you saying, even as you arrived that day, you did not feel comfortable about what you saw. You said it was business as usual. There didn't appear to be enough security given the scheduled protest. So you were uncomfortable from the beginning.
I was. When I was on my way to my office that morning, I was mindful of what the security notice was the night before from the Capitol Police. It was lengthy, but what they did ask us to do, all members, was to get to our offices early. And so when I was driving past the plaza and I looked up at the Capitol, I remember saying to my staffer that was driving me, I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "There's hardly anyone there." I was referring to how few Capitol Police officers were there. There was one standing at the top of the steps on the Senate side, one at the doors of the Capitol itself, or the rotunda, and there were two at the top of the steps on the House side. And it was unsettling to me. It was unsettling to me. Mm.
And you were right. Some people were speculating that an event so appalling would maybe bring people together, both sides of the aisle. I brought that up, but you were annoyed with some of your Republican colleagues. As you put it, you didn't see much hand-wringing. Tell us more about that.
Well, we remained, I and a handful of members, maybe two or three others, in the locked room with the furniture pushed up against the doors. It was an interior room, so that was somewhat of a source of comfort relative to our immediate security. But when we, much later, hours later, walked out of that room, we were in the very, very large Ways and Means hearing room, and there were many members there from both sides of the aisle. Uh, and, I couldn't help but, try to gauge what was taking place. For the most part, as I recall it, most members were, I would say, traumatized. So we were all experiencing it, but there were a handful that weren't, and that was deeply unsettling to me. What the most unsettling thing in the hours that followed, when the speaker called the House back into session, she said we have to demonstrate to the American people and people around the world that our democracy is working, and we will have the vote on the accepting the electoral ballots. That 2/3 of my Republican colleagues voted against that. When I went home that night, I knew that it was going to be a rough road ahead to deny essentially what had taken place, not accept the electoral ballots in our country. Um, So they attacked the Capitol to upend the peaceful transition of power. That's at the core of our democracy. And it's been a shining example to countries around the world. So I would say that that day was its own day of infamy, and uh, it's been a rough year. But I need to say that I am an optimist. Uh, I believe in the goodness and the decency of the American people. I see it manifested in the magnificent people of my congressional district, day in and day out, in the communities and what they do, um, helping each other uh, with this horrible virus. But there is a virus that's been injected in our democracy, and we all need to take that seriously, Catherine.
Congresswoman, let me ask you, when you did get out of the room, I know you were in there, I think, like 5 hours. What did you see? I mean, you must have walked around when it was safe to do that and started to see the kind of damage that had been done. What did you see?
I will never forget this, and that is the what some people would think of as the most lowly workers in the Capitol that clean it. They were having to clean all of that up. The violence of this mob and how they desecrated the Capitol was it was hard to look at. They defecated in the Capitol, in the citadel of democracy. So how anyone can say that this didn't happen, that it wasn't an attack, uh, or that even one member of Congress said it was as regular as tourists coming to the Capitol. No. And these magnificent individuals were doing their job. And I'll always remember that.
Yeah, it was unforgettable in all kinds of ways. And you were emotional that day, too. And again, we appreciated that you still took time to talk to us. You also kept it very real. Towards the end, the simple but real details. You were concerned about getting somewhere where you could get your purse and your house keys and, wondering how you were going to proceed.
And how my staff was, because I was not with them. You see, earlier in the day, the Capitol Police had come to our office and said that everyone in the Cannon House office building, had to evacuate because there was a bomb threat. Um, Now, most people would, when they hear there's a bomb threat, they would be shocked. But we get many notices from the Capitol Police talking about threats, and sometimes there are evacuations. But I wasn't unsettled by that. But then again, we didn't know what was yet to come.
Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, thank you so much for not only spending time that day with us in the midst of all that chaos, but again today, 1 year later. We appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.